Can African Americans learn anything from Japanese American reparations?
Man, I gotta tell you, I was surprised when you brought up this topic. Like I knew it happened, but I was surprised that it was so recent. You know, it was $20,000 they got for all the descendants.
All the surviving.
But it happened in 1988 under Reagan, so that's when it finally passed. So I was shocked that it was so recent. But you know, it's something to you know, there's a few things to learn from there because they really kept at it. They organized and they basically fought for reparations as African Americans should right now. So you know, it's something to learn. It's going to be a lot harder because it was a lot less people, a lot fewer people than only $20,000. And we know that the descendants of the slaves deserve a lot more than that.
This article talked about how they created an organization to start the movement to get the reparations, and it took like over 40 years, I believe it said, to get to this point. So I know right now there's a big movement. It's been put in the ether from this past presidential in the primary. Marianne Williamson was one of the strongest voices for reparations. And I'm curious to see if they can actually get it done. And what would it look like?
You look, they organized, right?
Mm-hmm.
They fought for 40 years. They stay at it. So I think for us, we have to continue to organize and making sure we stay at it. I think a lot of the time is, you know, some movement will start and we don't see nothing happen and people just may give up and be like, well, nothing is going to fundamentally change. And they may not want to put in the time, you know, to continue to fight. And it is going to take a couple of decades. It is. And, you know, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. So I believe that they should definitely learn from that and continue to fight.
How preposterous is it that the Japanese, you know, they were in internment camps for 3 years? Horrible, you know. One is completely ironic because on the other side of the world, they had internment camps and concentration camps and were murdering people at that time. But, you know, we were on the other side interning people. Luckily, we weren't killing them, thankfully. But those 3 years of suffering while they were in internment camps resulted in a reparations payout of $20,000 in 1988, which that $20,000 is $40,000 in today's money. Black Americans and descendants of slaves have not been given any reparations, not even if you just said, you know what, the Japanese got this for 3 years, let's give them the same $40,000 equivalent in 2020. That's not enough. That's nowhere near enough. But imagine they just did that. But these folks, which again, it was completely wrong, but in 3 years, descendants got a $20,000 check worth $40,000, and Black people that have been suffering for hundreds of years through not only slavery, through Jim Crow laws, through redlining, through every single oppression that you can imagine, the prison industrial complex, every single terrible thing that they've endured over these years that have set them back, that have been the anchor that makes them start the race miles behind. They got nothing. They get
not
nothing.
only that, Gabe, imagine if Japanese didn't get anything, but let's say if the jailers in the camps, they got, I don't know, a bonus on the check for every Japanese they let out. This is what happened with the slaves. You know, they had paid, I think on the Lincoln, they paid about $300 per slave that they freed, basically giving them money for losing their property. You know, so not only did the slaves get nothing, the slave owners got reparations.
Preposterous. Like from my understanding of what happened was that and the freed folks that were enslaved were supposed to receive, 40 acres and a mule, and then they received it for a couple years, and then after Lincoln's assassination, they did like clawbacks and then took back that land, and then, like you said, gave reparations to the slave masters instead, or slave owners instead. It's just that is America in a nutshell, where the rich get richer and the poor get for lack of better words, a boot on the neck, and it's terrible.
We're experiencing it right now. We're experiencing it right now when you look at it, right? Like minimum wage, $7.25 in 2009, 2020, same. And if you look at the billionaires, trillions of dollars in profit. So the rich are always going to get richer in America.
How many billions are they gaining during this global pandemic on top of everything. I know we're getting a little bit off on a tangent, but just the beauty of American capitalism, where the rich can gain billions and billions while the poor are unemployed and suffering and losing their houses and getting evicted, and we haven't even touched the tip of it, because as soon as all of any remaining eviction moratoriums expire, which it seems like it's going to be, the next ones are going to be in January, it's going to be a foreclosure crisis. It's going to be an eviction crisis. And we already know what a Biden administration would do, which is what happened last time. Under the Obama administration, 5 million people lost their homes while banks were bailed out. And I could go off on a tangent.
And when you look at it again, what's going to be? It's going to be Black America. Black America is going to be affected. Like when you look at all this, when we're looking at everything that we're talking about, we talked about it a couple episodes ago, right? The wealth between, whites and blacks, so it's always, they're going to be the one that's going to be affected. They're going to be the one going to be evicted. We're sitting here in 2020, and we're going to continue to sit here, and Biden already said nothing's going to fundamentally change. So
yeah, this is all going to be an excuse to evict them. And this kind of ties into a previous topic that we talk about with the cops and the policing and the disparity. There's I read an article about a cop in Atlanta that quit because he was being forced to basically harass people in a specific neighborhood because they wanted them evicted. So then the owner of the building could flip it and make gentrify it pretty much, and make a more expensive condominiums and make more money. So, this is the double whammy. You got the police cramping down, harassing people, racial bias to get them evicted. In conjunction with this epidemic, it's another excuse to evict people to get them out of their homes. And then, the rich keep getting richer as usual.
Can they learn anything? No, because the situation is completely different. Because although we should be giving Black Americans probably 10 times what the Japanese received, because they've had more than 10 times of the suffering that they experienced in those 3 years versus the hundreds of years that the Black Americans have experienced, they're never going to get that treatment. And it's terrible, because neither the Democrats nor the Republicans are giving Black people anything. And you can see that in the current campaigns. So right now they're not, they have the platinum plan, and then the other one, I forgot who even knows what Biden's plan is called. But when you get down to it, they're not offering Black Americans really anything. So the answer is no. We can't learn anything from the Japanese. The Japanese got better treatment for 3 years of suffering than Black Americans have gotten.
Well, the one thing that we can learn is to be persistent, because the article, the case shared, the guy that was interviewed, the one thing he said is that, he acknowledged that the amount of suffering doesn't compare, but you can't let it stagnate, because it will fester like a wound. And like, what you have to do is to keep pounding at it and keep going.
Absolutely. But you have to continue. But let's look at, the Black Lives Matter movement, right? It started during Obama years, right? It's coming to light. Yes, things are still not where they should be, but there's, people are talking about it. People are realizing it. And, something that is, as much as we know, is going to take another 10, 15 years, right? But we don't want to continue to say like, well, nothing is going to change, so we're going to stop fighting for what we believe. It took them 40 years to get what they want. We've been fighting for it, Black America and Latinos and stuff. We've been fighting for all this time. It may take us another 20 years, 25 years. Who knows, right? Like we know that these politicians don't really care about it.
And one thing that has happened is that the money's not there yet, but a lot of municipalities and other cities and organizations, they are acknowledging what has been happening, what has happened in the past. And they, I think in North Carolina, they already had a bill for reparations that passed unanimously in a certain county because of their own history. They haven't said anything about money amounts or anything like that, as far as I know, but they're already, they apologized, they acknowledged it. To the chagrin of a lot of people, and they're going to take next steps afterwards. Same thing happened in Belgium, where they're reckoning with their own past and their how they treated people in the Congo. it started with the museums changing what they displayed, because it was basically a lot of stolen art from them, stolen artifacts. All over the world, people are acknowledging the past, and that's step one. Step two would be how to make amends.
In the comments below, let us know what you think. Will you ever see the descendants of slaves getting any sort of reparations? And do you think it would be enough? Like, what do you think it would be? All right, like, comment, and subscribe.